Hey y'all, I'm Jennifer with Spark Flash Fiction, and today we are going to talk to Lakeisha Heeringa. Did I do that right?
Heeringa, but that's okay.
Heeringa. Sorry. I even asked her. I apologize. My apologies on that. But anyways, I'm very excited to talk to her today about her story, Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts. But before I start, let me introduce her to y'all real quick. Lakeisha is a rural Midwest author of Americana suspense. Thanks to a childhood filled with her dad's adventure stories and her mom's history focused homeschool program, Lakeisha began writing westerns and melodramatic historical fiction at a young age. Since then, she has cut back on the melodrama, but retained her love of hero stories, adding a dash of suspense and high stakes to every story she writes. Lakeisha is a member of the American Christian Fiction Writers Association and serves on the board of her local chapter. She is an alumna of the Writers Police Academy, a three-time finalist in the ACFW Virginia Crown Awards, and is currently working on her debut novel, A Rural Wisconsin Mystery. When not writing, she is very active in music, serving as concertmaster, church musician, middle school music teacher, and private music teacher. Any non-existent spare time is filled with hunting, fishing, hiking, baking, and of course, reading. All right, so let's start off with my favorite question, and tell me, what was the inspiration behind Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts?
Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts actually has a complicated backstory. It is not the first time Jack Diamond was written. I have a Christmas Jack Diamond story that I wrote a couple years ago. And before that, I had a Jack Diamond novella that is still not finished. I grew up watching Western stories. I watched Gunsmoke, Bonanza, John Wayne movies. And when I was a kid, we had gotten a box DVD collection of TV Westerns. And they were as B-rated and as corny as all get out. But as a kid, I loved them. And there was a Shotgun Slade, it had 10 episodes on the collection. And it was about this tough as nails detective. And he had all these awesome one-liners. And he was always getting in trouble with the women. And I loved it. So I had heard a song one day and I thought, oh, that would make a good Western story. And then I thought, oh, well, what if I create a character, a gambler who is always just ends up into mysteries and maybe he has a murky past. Is he a Pinkerton agent? Is he not? We're not sure. And that's how Jack Diamond was born. When I saw that you guys had your Love in Disguise contest, I thought I could probably come up with something. So my mind was just going and going and going. And all of a sudden I'm like, this would be perfect for Jack Diamond. So I sat down one night. I was actually at a classical music concert and I just let my mind wander the whole time. And I plotted most of it out. And then the following weekend, I was sick, couldn't do anything, was at home. And I thought, well, I can pound this out in an afternoon. And I actually did. The ending actually kind of surprised me a little bit. I wasn't prepared for that.
Well, it surprised me too, so it worked. It was really good. So, and I love that you were doing this at a classical concert because that's usually when I do my best writing, is when I'm playing classical music and I just go for it.
I use music for brainstorming. I can't have it on when I write. Then I get too distracted. But yeah, I have all my brainstorming playlists depending upon whatever book I'm working on or story idea I'm working on. So.
Oh, I love that. That is such a great idea. All right. Now, I have an inkling of what your answer is going to be. But what subgenre of romance is your favorite?
Well, dirty little secret. I am not a huge fan of straight romance. I can't handle it. It's got to have something with it. So I like historical suspense. So Crystal Caudle, Joanna Davidson Politano, Janir Tromp, Jamie Jo Wright. I will devour anything by them because, yes, it has that romance in there, but it's very heavy on the historical and suspense.
You kind of sound like Hope, our website designer. I laughed at her because she said, if it has a dead body, I will read it.
So I have two writer friends. And so when I told them that I was going to be entering in this contest, we were joking back and forth. And one of them has said to me that like my style is there's always going to be a dead body. And so the trick was going to be to see how many dead bodies I could get in 1,000 words. And we were joking that maybe I'd kill off the main character, but I couldn't do that to Jack Diamond. I have too many other stories for him to play a part in. So yeah, I made sure to kill at least one character.
I feel like you and Hope would get along. We're gonna have to connect y'all. That's hilarious. Okay, now tell me, I know you said you're not like a huge romance person, but is there a romance trope that you find yourself navigating toward, whether it's stories that you're reading or stories that you're writing?
I like the enemies to lovers. I like that. That usually that works really well in the suspense angle. A close proximity one or forced proximity, I like that as well. I have an idea for my next novel that would be definitely enemies to lovers. And yeah, when you're on a ship together, that would be forced proximity. So
love that. Those are two good ones. Okay, now you mentioned a few authors that you like. So I'm curious about some stories. What are some sweet romance stories or romantic suspense, anything with a dead body that you have enjoyed recently and you just have to tell people about?
I discovered Joanna Davidson Politano this year. Actually, this past year, I've been trying to be more focused on reading more and exploring new authors. And her Lady Jane Disappears, I loved that one. That is my new favorite book. And then A Midnight Dance by her was also phenomenal. I love the Elusive Truth of Lily Temple. But the most recent one that I really liked, I was reading Christmas novellas, and it was the O Little Town by Kriegel Publications. And they had a Jennifer Tromp in there that I really liked. But the last one by Deborah Rainey, actually, there was no dead bodies, which was shocking. And it wasn't even historical, but I love that one. And it was a high school music teacher who lost her job and fell in love with the football coach who also lost his job. And I thought, so that one was just way too funny, too ironic to not like.
Oh, I want to go read that one, especially with it being a Christmas novella. That sounds really good.
Yep. So the O Little Town, I really liked that collection. But yeah, the last one, it was by Deborah Rainey. That one was really good.
Yeah. All right. I mean, and it must have been good if it caught your attention without a dead body.
It was. It surprised me.
All right. You obviously, from reading your bio, you've been doing a lot of writing. So tell me, what's the best piece of writing advice that you have ever received?
There was, I know this writing advice can get a lot of flack, but there's the write every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I make sure that I at least write in my diary every single day. And I started doing that when I was 15. So even if I'm not working on a novel, I am always making sure that I'm picking up the pen, writing something down. And who knows, it could be fodder for story someday. I remember one time when I fainted, I wrote down a detailed explanation in my diary and it popped up in a story someday. And just like processing emotions, that has helped a lot. There was one other piece of writing advice that I come back to. I attended a workshop that Sigmund Bauer was teaching at. And he was talking about writer's block. And I got the drift that he didn't believe that in writer's block, he calls it you're bored with the story. So if you get to a point where you have writer's block, it's because you're bored. So what do you have to do differently? Because if you're bored, the reader's going to be bored. So my answer to that is you should kill a character.
Well, I mean, they do say to kill your darlings, right?
Right.
Well, that's some pretty good advice. And I liked how you said that you write your personal experiences that you can go back later and use in a story like the fainting. I've never thought about doing that.
Oh, I have stacks of diaries. The only problem is if I'm looking for something specific, it's hard to look it up. But that way, at the end of the day, even if you had writing goals and you didn't reach them, you wanted to have time to put something down. If you at least wrote in a diary or a prayer journal, you have accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes at the end of the day, if you all you can walk away and say is, I wrote a page in my diary about what I ate and how much I shopped for or whatnot, you wrote something, and that's something you can walk away from and be okay with.
I like that. That is a very good point. All right. Especially from someone as busy as you are, the fact that you find at least that just a few minutes to sit there and write and then you still feel accomplished. I really like that. So now I'm curious, are you a plotter, a pantser, or are you in between?
I started out as a pantser and I'm not going back. I am a plotter. Jack, to be fair, with Jack Diamond, yes, I mentally plotted it out, but if I'm doing short works, usually I'll just sit down and free write it out. If I'm doing novel length or novella length, I usually have a plot. And because I write mystery suspense, it has to have all the dots connected. My novel that I finished, my debut novel, part of it I had was when I was doing more pantsing. And then the other part was when I was plotting. And let me tell you, the developmental edits were horrible. I had pieces of paper, shuffling them up, trying to figure out what points I was supposed to put out, information and red herrings. I had charts. I have a whiteboard right here that you can still see the stuff that I erased. It was a mess. So yes, I am a plotter and I will be a plotter. Short form, I will probably pants on occasion.
But that's a very good point, especially when you're writing a mystery, because I just write straight historical romance and I have like a little suspense in there. But when you're writing like a full on mystery and you have to put all these clues and like the red herrings and you have to make sure that it ties up in a nice, neat little bow at the end, I can imagine the importance of plotting that out. So, how many days would you say does it take you to plot everything out before you feel comfortable sitting down and starting to write?
That's a question I can't answer. You read my bio. I am so busy. Most of my writing takes place in the summer, um, or on weekends if I'm not practicing music for something.
Mm-hmm.
So I will mentally plot a lot of stuff out. So the next novel that I'm going to be working on, I'm doing some mental plotting right now, aka I don't have time to write. So when I'm falling asleep at night, I think about what I'm going to write. And then hopefully over Christmas break, I will outline everything and then get started on the draft. But I know for sure I won't be able to get down to brass tacks until the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always tweaking things, always going over things in my brain. I've got that full length novel that I got to write or want to write. And then I have a short story that I have to write. So plotting two things at once.
Yeah. Well, and I can see the pro of taking that much time, because then you definitely have enough time to think through everything before you start writing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not sitting there pulling your hair out when you hit the muddled middle or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't have to resort to just killing off a character in the middle.
That's
sorry, don't have your life plotted out. You're dead.
Oh man. So you obviously love music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to ask you this question, because now that Thanksgiving is officially over, Christmas music was everywhere before Halloween. So I am curious, what kind of Christmas songs do you like? Do you like the old-fashioned classics, or are you more into like the modern pop ones?
Oh, not modern pop. I am the classics. I love country music, so that definitely Hard Candy Christmas by Dolly Parton. I love that song. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is my favorite secular Christmas song. I'm a church musician, so it's What Child Is This? This Sunday is Lo Hollow Rose There Blooming. I'm going to be playing that one, and Oh Come All Ye Faithful, and Oh Come Emmanuel. So I love the classical Christmas, the vintage Christmas, country Christmas. The modern stuff, not so much. There's a few good ones out there, but I like the oldies.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. There's something about the oldies. I'll tell you one that I just get chills whenever I hear is Handel's Messiah, when they go into like the Hallelujah chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh.
I've directed the Hallelujah chorus a few times for church choir, and I love that one.
Oh man, I think that was a lot of fun. So
it was.
Because you love music so much, and you said that you cannot listen to music when you write because it distracts you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said you had some brainstorming playlists. So I want to go back to that because now I'm curious. What's on your brainstorming playlist? Like, what are a few things that are on a playlist that you might listen to while you're brainstorming a story?
It depends upon what story I'm working on. So I have a Western brainstorming playlist that has so a country song. It has Eastwood by Brad Paisley, and that is just this insane guitar piece that's in the style of a Clint Eastwood Western. Sons of Katie Elder, High Plains Drifter, the Dollars Trilogy. So I'm listening to that music. The Good, the Bad, the no, not that one. The Quick and the Dead, music from that. So that's my Western one. My debut novel that I worked on, that was just a lot of country music. Luke Bryan, Morgan Wallen. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I had on there. A lot of like the 2010s country music, because that was when that story was initially brainstormed. And then my next book that I am working on mentally would feature like music from Death on the Nile, more of like the music from Titanic, stuff like that, because it's that time frame.
Yeah, I know that's a good idea, using like movie soundtracks.
Oh yes, I love the movie soundtracks. Hans Zimmer, James Horner, John Williams.
Yeah, and I think what's so great about that is because they're created specifically to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily play with an audience's emotions, but I think you're getting what I'm trying to get at, like evoke. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes,
it's created to evoke emotion, and so then you kind of get into this mood when you're writing a particular scene,
and it tells a story. And a lot of, well, not all of them, but a bunch of the movie soundtracks, I haven't seen the movies, but so I don't have that movie scene in my head. I have my story scene in my head.
Ooh, I've never thought about using ones I've never seen. That is so smart. Oh, okay, I like this a lot. Now, before we go, I want to talk about Westerns for a few minutes because I've only seen a few. I watched them with my mom. She grew up on them, like hurrying and getting home and turning on the TV to watch them. So you mentioned a few that you watched, but like if you could only watch one series on repeat for the rest of your adulthood, what's the one series that you would have to watch?
Series. Thank you for narrowing it down to series and not movies. Series would be Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. So which is your favorite character?
Well, Matt Dillon, of course.
Of course. I'm curious because some people really love Festus and some people love Miss Kitty.
Yes, I watched it with my grampy all the time. He loved Westerns. He was the one that introduced me to them. So we would watch the Gunsmoke, and we would watch like the old ones. So Chester Good. I loved Chester Good. He was hilarious.
Oh man. I had to say, for some reason the black and white ones were a little bit better than the color version. I don't know why. It just was. So, well, now I've asked you about series. So what about movie?
That would be hard. It would be a toss-up between, I don't know if I can narrow it down to one.
I love like three.
Okay, three. I could do that. Sons of Katie Elder.
Okay.
Rio Bravo. And then I'm going to say The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, because I'm going to call John Wayne's The Alamo a war genre instead of a Western genre.
Oh, okay. Well, I've never seen those, so I might have to go look those up.
I love The Sons of Katie Elder. It's a long one. It's very slow, but it's about these brothers that come back home because their mother has died, and they come back home and they find trouble. And so it's all the family dynamics. And that is something that's very central to my stories, is the loyalty of family. Jack Diamond doesn't have that too much. He's a loner. But my other stories have a lot of complicated family drama in them. So Sons of Katie Elder, that one's a really good one to start with if you like the family drama.
Yeah, I'm all about family drama. I mean, really, you get a lot of meat out of that in a story. There's a lot of things that you can explore with that. So, well, all right. Well, thank you for joining me today. This was really fun talking and nerding out about Western. And thank you, everyone that's watching, whether you're watching live or the replay. If you haven't yet read Lakeisha's story, be sure to go check it out on our website. It is free and it is good. This was a contest issue, so it was a semifinalist. So she beat out, I don't even remember how many submissions we had. We had a lot. So you know it's going to be good. So go check it out and go follow her on social media. What is the best place for people to find you?
Facebook and Instagram. I am currently, after Christmas, I will be having a website and newsletter come out, but that's going to be in 2025, early 2025. So
yeah, I mean that's a good goal for after the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. She gave you plenty of books to read, so I hope that you have a wonderful weekend full of books and have a happy holiday. Good night, y'all.
Good night. Bye.